subscribers. This is my next video. Just conscious that I'm picking up quite a lot more subscribers on my YouTube channel now, so I just thought I'd do a little video and just show you something that I show to a lot of my beginners or people who just joined the club, just to alleviate some of the frustration when you first start learning a new sport, which can be really difficult. It's just something called Kolbs learning cycle, and I came across it when I was doing my business management degree. It's really useful in all different scenarios, but particularly when it comes to boxing or learning a new skill, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or anything like that. Because at the beginning, the start can always be very, very difficult. And indeed, you know, a bit further on, when you become a bit set in your ways and lazy, then again, you can revisit this and it'll help you understand why it's so important to bring in new skills all the time, to challenge yourself and improve. When someone first comes to me for whatever reason, whether it's to start boxing from scratch or if they've left another gym and come to me from another gym, I always like to say people start about here in terms of what I know and what they know. So whilst they might already have an understanding of boxing in a way, you don't understand it like I do. And I'm not saying that I know everything, but what I'm saying is I have my own interpretation of how the sport works, and you don't know what my interpretation is. So in terms of understanding my understanding of the sport, you are unconsciously incompetent. You don't understand it. You aren't aware of how I work, how I use my boxing system against somebody else's. So this can apply to people who are in the gym and they think they're happy and they're improving when really they're not, but they are incompetent, but they don't realise it, they don't know it yet. So when you first come in, you're here unconsciously incompetent, unable to do it, but you don't really know. You don't really know that. You think you're fine. Once you've come to the gym and you've started receiving input, then pretty soon, hopefully, you will become consciously incompetent. So you'll be conscious of what you're not good at or what you're unable to do. And again, that's a really good stage to be at, because you're aware of where you're going wrong, and you can start making the necessary changes and taking on board the systems required to get you doing things correctly. Consciously competence would mean that you can do things, but you have to constantly be mindful of it. It's not something that you can just do without thinking. And obviously in a sport like boxing, you have to be able to put at least some thought into your strategy and ideas and various other things, and management of your energy levels and all that kind of thing. So if you're consciously competent, that's great, but it also means that you're going to be lacking in your approach and strategy a little bit. So you can do it, but you have to apply thought to it. Sorry, consciously competent, there it is. Okay, and then with more practice and over time, by doing it more and more, you become unconsciously competent, which means that you're able to do things without even thinking about it. And I liken it to driving. For those of you that drive, you'll be able to quite easily drive from location A to location B without really putting much thought into changing gear, pressing the accelerator, pressing the clutch, etc. If you remember when you first started, those things felt hugely difficult, but by practicing over and over again, it almost becomes second nature and happens on almost a subconscious level. Now, when you get to this point in boxing, it's really important, because that's a point where suddenly strategy and intelligence and ringcraft take over, and you'll only ever get to here if all these other bits, all these other boxes are ticked and the fundamentals are all put in place correctly. Otherwise, you'll always be either unconsciously incompetent, where you're just getting twatted for no reason, or what appears to be no reason, you don't understand why, or you'll be consciously competent, but you'll be unable to focus on this here, on your tactics and strategy, because you'll be so concerned with getting everything else right. And people tend to fall into one of these four categories at all times, I find. So there's always someone, you're always on one of these. Where this comes in for some fighters is that if you've had a good coach and over time you've practiced and you've got brilliant and you're really tight and tidy and your technique is bang on, but over time, if you're not given a new skill, then unconscious competence can soon become unconscious incompetence, where you start to make mistakes again and you start to lose track of what's important, and that's where you see guys getting beat by much lower level people, usually because their fundamentals have slipped or their attitudes to training have slipped, and you suddenly become unconsciously incompetent of what you're doing. To go through really quickly again, so you can just fast forward to the end of the video. Unconsciously incompetent means that you are unaware that you're unable to do it, okay? But by having input and having teaching from a coach, you will be made aware of your incompetence, so you'll become conscious of your incompetencies, okay? By practicing, you will become consciously competent. So by practicing over and over again, and by thinking about it and applying your thoughts, you will become consciously competent, okay? And then with a lot of practice and time and rounds spent practicing and making your craft better, you become unconsciously competent, which means that you're able to strategize and focus on the more sporting aspects of what's going on. And then obviously you need to be careful of falling back into this if you have a lazy approach to training, or to put a more positive spin on it, when you get to here, you're unconsciously competent, add a new skill, you'll be unaware of where that skill fits into your whole game, which will again make you consciously incompetent. So you'll be aware that you don't know where it fits, but by practicing it over and over again, you'll become conscious of it and you'll be able to get it better, and then finally it'll become part of your game when you become unconsciously competent again. Anyway, right, I hope the video's good. I hope people understand. If anyone's got any questions, just hit me up on YouTube, and good luck.